Hi everyone, my name is Amit Vaswani and this recording is an overview of and demonstration of the Data Integration Hub as it was done at Informatica World 2014. So in this presentation, we're going to go over an overview of the Informatica Data Integration Hub solution. We're going to discuss requirements, talk about some use cases, and then we're going to go over a product demonstration. So this is the picture of a CIO. Why is he holding his head? Well, regardless of the line of business that a CIO may be in, the CIO and his organization is always tasked with innovation. But what really ends up happening is that the CIO's organization ends up spending more than 80% of the time in trying to keep the lights on and running business critical applications. And while keeping the lights on and running business critical applications is important because that's where the revenue comes from, innovation is really where the future of the organization lies. Now, upon further analysis, what we find out is that about half of that time spent in trying to keep the lights on is really spent in managing applications. So it comes down to this: what can we do to free up that time that's spent in just managing and maintaining applications? What can we do to free up that time so that the CIO's organization can spend more time on innovation as against just managing and maintaining applications? So let's take a look at this. Typically, decisions within an organization are made more at a project level than at an enterprise level, and there are very good reasons for doing so. The main reason being that, having to meet business requirements, getting speed to market, things like that. But because of the fact that decisions are made more at a project level, very little thought is given to the enterprise architecture. And what ends up happening is that pretty much every organization has what we call the data integration hairball, where you have a variety of point-to-point systems. And this really explains why the CIO's organization ends up spending more than half of the time and resources on just managing and maintaining applications. So what are the top three challenges with such an integration hairball? The first challenge, of course, being that if you have a CRM system, for example, that needs to feed customer data to a data warehouse. So all that you're going to do is you're going to have a project and you're going to build a feed to the data warehouse. Now another project comes along where we need to feed data to an operational data store for analytics purposes. So we're going to build another feed going from the same source system to that data store. Then along comes a requirement to do MDM hub, to build out the MDM hub, get the golden record of a customer. Fine, we're just going to go ahead and take a feed from the same source system. So for n number of downstream systems, you're going to have n number of feeds going out from the same set of source systems. The focus of these CRM systems and these source systems are really meant towards end users. They're catered towards end users and business facing applications. What could end up happening is that because of the redundant loads and these redundant feeds, you could end up putting stress and consuming too much resources on that system. And end users could end up seeing latency in their applications. And you might argue that, there are times in the day to kick off jobs, but today we are living in a 24/7 environment, in a global environment which requires 24/7 access, availability. There's really no good time to kick off a particular job, right? So that's a challenge out there. The second challenge is we talk about enterprise level data quality and the fact that we have reusable data quality rules. But again, the problem comes down to, if you have these n number of feeds, if I put a data quality rule to cleanse customer data from the CRM system to the warehouse, that does nothing for my feed that goes to the operational data store. That's a completely separately managed feed. So I've got to know to go plug in that same rule over there and plug in the same rule somewhere else, and that goes to the MDM hub and things like that. So really you've got to manually have to go and plug in those rules, and you've got to know that those rules exist. And the third big challenge, it's a nightmare to manage and maintain such an enterprise, such a system. So we have had some real life examples of customers being in similar situations. There was a major cosmetics firm in Europe where there were a huge SAP shop and a huge Informatica shop. They had pretty much most of the data integration feeds set through the Informatica Power Center platform. But what they ended up happening was that they saw that one day there was latency on their SAP system. And then upon further analysis, business users were complaining that SAP is slow. And upon further analysis, what they determined was that the reason why SAP is slow is that there were too many redundant feeds going out at the same time from SAP to various downstream systems. And another use case is a major clearinghouse in the financial services industry. They're essentially known as a wall behind Wall Street, responsible for clearing trades. And in this organization, one of the business units, the business users were complaining that its IT is unable to deliver changes in time. They hired a consulting firm, and upon further analysis, what they determined was that the reason why IT is unable to deliver new changes in time is because they have these multiple point-to-point interfaces and they're too bogged down in managing and maintaining this. So with that said, what is our approach towards trying to resolve this? Well, our approach, Informatica's approach towards trying to resolve this hairball is known as a data integration hub. Before I proceed, I do want to point out something here. It's very easy to transition from a slide that looks like a hairball to a slide that looks clean and neat like this and well organized. The fact is that, even if you have a hairball, your IT infrastructure, it still works. It still functions. It still works properly. So you cannot just shut down and replace everything with this new enterprise infrastructure. It's got to be a phased approach. And the best way to begin with this migration is to start with when there is a funded request for a new interface. Decision should be made to go with this new architecture as against doing things the old ways, and if it works, then migrating everything over to this new architecture. This is exactly how the two examples that I gave about the cosmetics firm and the financial services clearinghouse, this is exactly what they did. This is exactly how they used DIH. They had these problems, but they had a new project. They decided to do this new project with the new architecture and then eventually migrated everything else. So with that said, what is a data integration hub? The data integration hub is a hub essentially that sits in the middle of your enterprise, and every enterprise application will establish a contract with the data integration hub such that it would say that it either has data to publish or provide to the hub, and then, or it would say that it has to consume data or subscribe to data from the hub. When it subscribes to data, it could subscribe at any latency. So for example, I could have a finance system saying I need customer data only at the end of the day. But I have another operational data store saying I need this information as soon as possible, as soon as it's made available. I cannot wait till the end of the day. So essentially they can consume this data at any latency of their choice. So what happens is when data is published to the hub, data is persisted, and that persistence happens in a database repository. And then downstream systems can consume this information at any latency of their choice. Also, when we are talking about publishing data, that is, we are essentially talking about moving data from a source system to the data integration hub persistence layer, which is a database repository. When we are talking about subscribing, we're talking about moving data from the data integration hub persistence layer to these various downstream systems. The engine that's very, very good at movement of data is Informatica's Power Center platform. And that is the engine that powers the data integration hub. In addition to that, in addition to Power Center and a database repository, the data integration hub also has a web-based interface where you can go in and you can do self-service onboarding without having to be a Power Center expert. You can connect your applications to the hub. You can also monitor and view progress of what exactly is going on within the hub and the activity of things as well. And we're going to get into more details of this. And given the fact that Power Center is the engine that powers the data integration hub, pretty much any Power Exchange connector that we support, pretty much any connector that we support can communicate with the DIH. So it's true enterprise level connectivity. So with that, what are some of the key features of the Data Integration Hub? As we stated, there is a database level persistence layer, and PowerCenter is the engine that pretty much powers the hub. But in addition to that, there is a web-based interface that's essentially it's a self-service interface where users can go in and onboard themselves without having to be PowerCenter experts. We have the ability to plug into other parts of the platform. We can plug into data quality. So for example, if I'm publishing customer data to the hub, during the process of publishing, if I apply transformations, if I apply data quality rules to it, the data that lands in the hub will always be cleansed data. I could have 10 downstream systems now subscribing to that data at any latency of their choice, and they would always get cleansed data without having to worry about applying any cleansing rules or knowing what cleansing rules exist. Because I'm applying it at one place, and then downstream systems are consuming that cleansed data. You also get end-to-end visibility, so you know who's publishing, who's subscribing, things like that. And the other key thing is, you could think of a scenario where you have one publisher and 10 subscribers. And let's say 6 succeeded and 4 subscribers failed. How do I know which were the 4 that failed? I don't want to have to spend hours and hours digging through session logs to figure out what the problem is. So there's a web-based interface, a searchable interface, and dashboards and reports that tell you the activity within the system. You can search, you can quickly find out and see for a publication, here were the n number of subscriptions, here were the ones that failed, and then quickly do a root cause analysis on those. So these are some of the capabilities of the Data Integration Hub. Let's talk about some use cases. Some of the key use cases, and let's start with the lowest one over here that talks about complementing an SOA or ESP. Now, one of the questions that comes up very often is that, this is every ESP vendor shows the same picture, that there's an integration hairball, and they show they can resolve that hairball by this hub and spoke architecture diagram. So the question comes up is Data Integration Hub now an ESP? Because we are using concepts of publish and subscribe too over here. The answer to that is no. The DIH is not an ESP. It's very different. In fact, it complements an ESP. And this can be best explained with an example. So there's a large insurance firm that has pretty much built their ESP or the EAI or ESP infrastructure and connected it to 200 systems. There's a self-service interface where users can go in, customers or policyholders of this insurance firm can go into this web page, enter data, and as they enter data in real time, that data will be synchronized to these various 200 systems downstream in real time. And that worked great. Now, what happened was the actual business process is that there's an external agent, an external entity or an external agent, which is a partner of this insurance firm, that actually signs up these agents that signs up these policy holders. So in their case, the agents were saying that we need to get a feed of whatever has changed about policyholders that they have signed up. So we said that's great. So what's going to happen now is that we are just going to take a feed out of this web interface, run it through the ESP at whatever time you need it. They cannot get that information in real time because they're sitting outside the firewall. So whatever time you want, we are going to rerun this feed out of the web interface. Well, guess what happened? While trying to run this through the ESP, there were billions of such changes happening throughout the day for customers. And while trying to run all of this through the ESP, this would just ESP would fail. It just could not handle it. So what essentially happened was that we had to use the Data Integration Hub in conjunction with an ESP, where the Data Integration Hub would listen for these messages throughout the day in real time as the ESP was synchronizing them and sending them out. And then at the end of the day, when it was time, the data integration hub would group all the messages together and send it out. So the story here is that an ESB is not built for extremely high volume batch type transactions. That's where the data integration hub comes in. In addition to that, some of the other use cases, the data integration hub can be used in an MDM project. So then the typical goal of an MDM solution is to gather data from various systems, create what's called a golden record, single version of truth of an entity, whether it's customers, products, or whatever else. And then various downstream systems can get that single version of the truth whenever they want to. Well, how it would get that is through the data integration hub. When the MDM does its work and creates a single version of truth, it can publish that single version of truth out to the data integration hub. Various downstream systems can now come and self-provision themselves, come and say, I'm going to subscribe to the single version of the truth. And maybe I need all attributes of a customer or some attributes of a customer, but that's how I'm going to get it. I can provision it, and as soon as it's published out, these downstream systems can pick it up. Another use case is for enterprise application implementations, where if you're standing up a new system or retiring a system or in mergers and acquisitions, before these systems are actually merged, multiple systems are merged, they can quickly connect onto the DIH to get data or feed data to the DIH as well. So these are some of the key use cases of where the DIH is used. So with that, let's get to a product demonstration. In this particular example, what we have is a data integration hub that sits in between, and there's some context, right? So before I get into a demonstration, I just want to give some context on what we're covering here. So we have the CRM system that contains data about customers and orders, and this data is being updated throughout the day, either by customer service reps or through a self-service interface. But the idea is that information about customers and orders is being updated throughout the day. So the CRM system will publish information about customers and orders to the data integration hub 4 times a day. This data is then persisted in the hub. You then have the finance application that says, I'm going to subscribe to this data only at the end of the day. So I need to calculate the revenue generated per customer. I do not care whether it is 4 times a day or 10 times a day. I just need this information at the end of the day. I'm going to consume it and pick it up. But we also have a sales operational data store that says, I need this information as soon as it is published out. So I cannot wait until I need this information as soon as it's sent out. So what we're doing is we're talking about different latencies over here. 2 subscribers getting the similar type of data but at different times. And then we have the sales data mart that says, I need to do some more complex calculations. So there's some more complex transformations need to happen. So that's the idea as well. We're going to cover some more complex scenarios. And then what happens is that we acquire another company. This company has its own CRM system, which will eventually be merged with the original CRM system. But that merging process will take time. But we need to quickly onboard this CRM system to also feed information about its customers and orders to the DIH. And the finance application needs to calculate that information not only from CRM system 1, but also from this new CRM system. So we need to quickly onboard that application as well. So with that, let's get into the product demonstration. We're going to cover different aspects of the product. We're going to start with defining what are called topics, and we'll explain what this means. We'll get into onboarding applications. We'll monitor activity, set up custom transformations, and then talk about connectivity. So let's go to the first section that's called topics, and then we'll go through the rest of the areas as well. So what you're looking at over here is a data integration hub operator console. I'm just going to go ahead and log in as user administrator. But I'm not covering security too much in this demonstration, but there is a very granular level of security. You can plug into LDAP, you can plug into Informatica security platform, and there are different ways and different users can have different roles. So that's all I'm going to say about security here, but there is a very detailed level of security. So essentially I come in over here. Now the first thing that I've got to do is I've got to set up, I'm going to have the CRM system publishing customers and orders data. I'm going to have the finance system and the operational data store and the data mart subscribing to that information. So I've got to first define what is a customer. What is it that data is being published to? What is it that data is being subscribed from? Okay. So the first section over here is called topics. So you can define what's called a topic. Within this, I can come in over here and create a new topic. That would take you to a new topic wizard. So out here, I'll come in and there's basically set up a new topic wizard. I'll define what a new topic is. And then you have different options. You can say it's either a delta or a full. So what this really means is that the data that's being published to this specific topic. Now, we are going to talk about an example where customer data is published 4 times a day, so every 6 hours. So let's say the first publication happens at 6 a.m. The next publication is going to happen 6 hours later at 12 p.m. At 12 p.m., what is being published out? Is everything about customers still being published out, even the data that was sent at 6 a.m.? Is that being sent out as well? Or is it just the changes that were being sent between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m.? So this is an indicator which says, is it a delta or a full? So delta meaning it is just the changes that were sent out between 6 p.m. and 12 p.m. And it's an indicator so that downstream subscribers know how to handle the data that's coming in. So I'm saying, I said this to be delta. The next is I've got to define the structure of the topic. Now I have multiple options to define the structure of the topic. I could already have my topic defined as a database table or a set of database tables, or I want to just make my topic structure very similar to the way my source looks like, and the source is the database tables. So I can point to an existing set of database tables and pull that in. I can define the structure of my topic manually. Or the third option is based on a Power Center workflow definition file. So this is useful when in scenarios where, even going back to the cosmetics firm example that I had given in the beginning, where they are an existing Informatica shop, they have existing Informatica mappings, and their challenge was, we do not want to have to learn a new product now to resolve this issue. Why can't we continue using the same product? Well, you are. So in Power Center, if you already have existing point-to-point mappings that go from source to target, you can just modify them a little bit, repurpose them, and run them in the DIH. That's what this allows you to do, where you can define your topic based on a target within a Power Center mapping. Just for the purpose of this demo, we're just going to move on with existing database tables. So if I go next, now it says set up a database connection. So I can set up a connection over here, give the user ID, password, all of that stuff. Once I set up the connection, I can choose my connection, and then when I go OK, it says here are a list of available tables under that schema. In this case, I'm just going to choose a customer table, and when I hit finish, it's going to define a topic based on that customer table that I just pulled in. So it says I've got the party ID, the party name, address with the precision of 60, all of the stuff. It's going to define, it's got name, address, city, state. It's just pulled it from the database table definition. I'm going to go next, and we'll come back to what retention means. We will address this a little later. Now when you hit next, what's happening is when you hit finish, it's going to set up that persistence layer, the topic from the repository. So applications can now publish to this topic, and applications can now subscribe from this topic. Now for orders, it's essentially the same set of steps that we went through for customers. The only difference we wanted to point out over here is that an orders can be stored. You could have topics that could be stored across multiple tables. So you have an order header and order details. So you can create a topic from multiple tables as well. So now that you have set up topics, now let's go in and start setting up publishers and subscribers. So now I'm going to come in here, create an application called the CRM system, because that's what's going to publish. So how I get to this point is that there's a new application wizard. I click on this, it's a form, and this is where I come in and start configuring, and I start saying, I've called this the CRM system. Now I can set up a new publication. So I click on this, it's a new publication wizard. I already have a publication that's pre-created over here, so I'm just going to click on this. I'm just calling my publication customers, and I'm publishing to the topic called customers. Note, this can be any name, right? It just happens that the way I defined it was that my publication is the same as my topic, but it doesn't have to be that. The publication can be any name. So, but I'm saying I'm publishing to this topic called customers. Now the next is, we want to move data from the CRM system. Essentially, when we talk about publishing, we are moving data from the CRM system to this topic, which is a database persistence layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up what's called an automatic mapping. I don't want to have to create a Power Center mapping. I'll just come in and set this up over here right off. Call it an automatic mapping. We'll go next. We'll come back to what parameters are. In this case, my source system, which we are calling the CRM system, actually happens to be an Oracle database. So I'm going to go over here and just point to that, set up my connection and point to that Oracle database. And then I'm going to say, how frequently do I want to publish data out? So I can say I want to publish data every day or every hour, every 6 hours. So that is 4 times a day. I want to publish my data every so frequently. And I'll hit finish. So now when I hit finish, it is setting up this publication for me. So what it's doing is it's setting up a Power Center mapping that moves data from the source system, which is an Oracle table, and writing it to the target system, which is the DIH, the Data Integration Hub topic. So when upon hitting finish, what it does is it'll generate this Power Center mapping, which moves data from source to target, which moves data from the CRM system to the DIH topic. It'll generate this mapping for you. Now that the mapping is all set up and goes, so without having to open Power Center, it just does that for you. Now I'm not going to talk about publications for orders, so it's essentially the same set of steps. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to proceed to the next step. So now that we have set up publications, let's talk about subscriptions. So let's say that I'm now the finance application. I log in. I come into the same new application wizard and I create my finance application over here. Now, I can come in over here and there's a section called catalogs where you can browse a list of available data sets or list of available topics that an application can subscribe to. So in this case, I just have 3, but in the real world, you could have hundreds of such topics. You can come and search on this as well, and search by attributes and things like that as well. So let's say I'm interested in subscribing to the customer's topic. So I'll come in over here, I'll click on this, and actually before I move forward with this, I'll come in over here, I'll view details. And details, I can view the content and see, go in over here, see here are the contents of the customer. I have name, address, city, state, and maybe I'm the finance application. I just care for active customers. So I can come in here and view the status as well and say, okay, there's a status. But now I want to know, because I'm the like we said, the finance application just wants a list of active customers. So if a customer is deactivated, I don't care for that. So how do I know that? How do I know that the status field was the correct field? So what I can do is from here, I can launch right into a business glossary, the Informatica metadata manager and business glossary component. So we can launch right into that. Out here, what it's going to show us is, here is a definition of the topic in the data integration hub. We have this customer's topic. The topic as we had defined has got all these attributes. There is a status layer field, and the status field, if I go to my business glossary, the status field is really defined as, I can come in over here is a business definition of a status, and down here it will say that this is the status of a customer. It's either A or I. So now I know that I need to put in a filter to subscribe to only customers that have a status of A. So this way we can tie to the metadata manager and business glossary capabilities of Informatica as well, view the definition of what a topic is, the business definition of these topics, and things like that. So now that we have that set up, I can come in here and hit subscribe, and this will take us to the new subscription wizard, which is very similar to the publication wizard now, where we can go in and we can say we are, subscribing from this topic, we can choose our application, which is a finance application that's going to subscribe. We'd give it a name. So we'll just call it, right? Also out here, we are moving data from the DIH to the finance application, which happens to be a file in this case. So since it's a file, again, I don't need to generate a mapping. We can talk about what customs. So just go ahead and generate one for me. I don't need to create a mapping in Power Center. You go ahead, generate one for me. I'll go next. In this case, my target is going to be a file. So if my target's a file, I can give it the file name. I can give it the folder that we are writing to, and this folder can be parameterized, so I can hard code a path. I can choose a file name. I can choose whether it's a comma separated file, pipe delimited, semicolon, things like that. Now, like we said, we want only customers that are active. So we come and set up a filter over here, and I can say at the condition, set up a filter on customers where the status is equal to active. And we knew this by looking at the glossary, the business term glossary, that it is A. And you know what? Maybe these are all the attributes of a customer. Maybe I don't care for the date of birth and gender of the customer. Since I'm a finance application, I don't care for these things. So I can pick and choose what attributes you want of the customer as well. And you go next. You can choose when you want to subscribe to this information, either as soon as it's published out or at a particular latency. And then when you go next and hit finish, you now set up the subscription. So behind the scenes, it's also setting up a Power Center mapping. It'll auto-generate a Power Center mapping that moves data from the DIH topic to your target table, whether it's a database or a file, and it puts a filter transformation where you can have that filtering based on, since we had put in a filter for the status. So that is how we set up subscriptions. Now, in the real world, you could have a couple of scenarios. Scenario one, we have only covered where the publisher is a database or a file, or the subscriber is a database or a file. What if your publisher is not a database? It's a mainframe application, it's a cloud application, something else. That's one challenge. The other challenge could be that the layout of my topics and my sources and targets are completely different. So I need to do some transformations over here. And then the third possibility is that, again, I'm an existing Power Center shop. I don't want to have to rebuild these new mappings. Even if it is auto-generate, I don't want to have to rebuild them. I want to reuse my existing assets. So in these three cases, one is if I want to use any connector that's not a database or a file, like cloud applications, mainframes, things like that. Two is if I want to reuse existing Power Center mappings. And three is if I want to do any transformations, then I would have to use what's called a custom mapping. So a custom mapping is essentially, you can either take an existing Power Center mapping or build your own mapping and do whatever logic Power Center supports, whatever source or target Power Center supports, anything, any of these sources and targets, right? Whether it's mainframes or MQ or VSAM or whatever, any of these sources or targets that Power Center, you can build a mapping out of that. You can do any transformation that Power Center supports, like joins, aggregations, whatever. You can build any Power Center mapping, take existing mappings, repurpose them a little bit. Now, there are some rules. Your source, in the case of a publication, your target must be a topic. In the case of a subscription, your target must be, your source must be the topic. So there are some rules around it, and there's a framework, and there's documentation that's provided. But the fact is, you can do logic as you would do in any Power Center, or you could take any source or target at this point. Take that, export it out, and once you come into the Data Integration Hub section, there's a section called Workflows. I can import in that mapping over here. So in this case, I've called this mapping Load Customers, things like that, right? Load Customers to Sales Data Mart. I've just called it that, and I've imported the mapping in. Now let's talk about another use case here where I have 10 different subscribers that's requesting customer data. But these 10 subscribers are like 10 different systems, and I have to build custom mappings for them. But it's most of the logic is just identical. The only thing is that the only variation is that they accept phone numbers in different formats. So I don't want to have to, one way to do is have to create 10 power center mappings. Now all the logic is the same, it's just that the phone number varies. So why do you want to have to go to create 10 different mappings when all the logic is the same and just something small, like I've got to account for transforming a phone number. So what you can do is you can build a generic mapping that parameterizes out certain things. So in this case, I'm going to parameterize out the phone number. I could parameterize other attributes in my mapping as well. It's entirely up to you what you want to parameterize out. And so this is what would be parameterized out by the mapping, like format phone numbers and various set of attributes, whatever you want to parameterize out. You can come and design it to make it look better. So now when you set up your subscriber, I'll come in over here and see list of subscribers. So when you set up your subscriber, you go through the subscription wizard. Instead of automatic, you choose custom. You go and choose that workflow that you just imported. And now for the subscriber, I'm going to say I want phone numbers to be in this format, xxx-xxx, this way, right? Now I could take the same flow, same workflow. I could set up another subscriber, right? And their parameters are different. Their format phone number might be something else. Their validated address, maybe they want to call that role. So this way I can reuse existing flows by passing parameters and then making it presentable to the end user. So there's a reusability aspect as well. So that's one thing. And again, keep in mind another place where custom mappings are also used is specifically for existing mappings, to if you want to repurpose them and run them without having to rewrite all of the logic. Non-database and files, cloud applications, mainframes, all of those, any Power Exchange connector, and you want to do any complex transformations, that's where custom mappings are used. So really that's the only thing that's different about a custom mapping is to have, you create it, you specify it over here, you want to expose out parameters, you pass that in. The rest of the scheduling and everything is similar to as we saw before. So I'm going to put that. So now that we have onboarded applications, let us now talk about running something, publishing and subscribing to data. So let's say that it's now time to fire up the orders publication and the customers publication. And this could be every 6 hours on schedule, or for now, for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and start these publications off manually. Now, if you want to see what exactly is going on, a publication kicked off, what exactly is going on, you can come in over here, pull up a list of events. So what this is saying is that at 12:55 p.m., that's the time on the machine here, customers is published and it's processing, orders is published and it's processing. Now what it says is that customers is published and it's complete. I can pull down and it says 756 rows of customer data were published to the hub. And it says consumption status is delayed, which means one or many subscribers are in a delayed state. So if I drill down over here, so now it says the finance application is processing. Now, the reason why it said delayed over there was that, like we said, the finance application is going to pick it up at the end of the day. So, this guy has this operational data store picked it up as soon as it was published out and done. Finance application will kick in at the end of the day. Right now it's already kicked in, but it could kick in at the end of the day. And that's why it will stay in delayed until the end of the day comes in. So now if I come back over here, what it tells me is that, all the latencies have kicked in, publication complete, but the consumption status is an error. So if I drill down, over here it says all my subscribers are good except for this one, the data mart, which is in an error state. Now keep in mind, here I'm showing you one subscriber. What if you have 10 subscribers and 6 succeeded and 4 failed? You don't want to have to spend hours and hours. It tells you straight away, you have the 6 successes, you have the 6 completes, the 4 failures. And now you can go into each of the failures, drill down, it gives you a high-level error message. You can take this error message, send it off to the Power Center administrator. They can do a root cause analysis on the mapping related to this to do a pinpoint the problem. So again, out here, it helps you with the problem analysis, where you're not spending hours and hours trying to figure out who succeeded and who failed. Straight away, you know the answer. Now you can drill down further and see what happened. And also, once you've resolved the error, you can come in over here, check this off, and reprocess. And reprocessing would just reprocess the subscription for the one that you've checked off for the error. It would not reprocess it for the ones that are done. It would not do anything to those. So that way you can resend data only to the ones that failed. So now keep in mind that for orders, notice over here it says final. What final means is that every subscriber has successfully consumed. And in the case of orders, we had published out 5,031 rows of data. So now that everything is consumed, we really do not need to keep this data anymore, because it's all been successfully consumed. So we can purge the data. The data integration hub can purge data for everything that's for a publication that's been successfully done, and everyone has successfully consumed that. So it can essentially purge that information and clean it up. But how that's done is you can set the frequency, like when do you want to purge. Maybe you have a requirement to keep the data around for a certain number of days before purging that information. So if you go back to the definition of your topic, what we had done was during our topic definition, we had set it up and said the retention must be 7 days, and this can be any number. So I can say so basically what's going to happen is that 7 days after the consumption status has hit final, the date, these 5,031 rows of customer of orders data is going to be purged out. So remember, it's not going to purge it out for this one because it's in an error state. It is going to purge it out for this one because it's in the final state. So it will purge out the data only after everything is in the final state. So all of this in the real world, you could have a lot of such activity going on. So this is a searchable. You can search by time frames. You can search by attributes and things like that. But all of this activity is also gets bubbled up into what we call dashboards. So there are out-of-the-box dashboards which gives you the overall health of the system. So what this is telling us is that over time, there were errors by various systems over a given period of time, and you can define your custom time frame. It looks like the Sage Data Mart had the most number of errors. And also over the last 24 hours, there was about 4 successful publications and 16 successful subscriptions. So, and you can drill down into each of these to get more information as well. There are a set of available dashboards for more information, like to view the errors by application, average processing time, current status. You can custom build. All of this is available in the repository. You can custom a reporting tool ships with the product, so you can custom build your own reports. And if you have a BI tool of your choice, you can use that as well. We'll give you full documentation on what this repository looks like. So with that said, let's go back and quickly summarize. So what we covered here was setting up topics. So we could either use existing Power Center mappings, or if a database is defined a model, do that, or through a web interface go and define what is the structure that the data is being published or subscribed to and from. We did self-service onboarding, so without having to open Power Center, users can just go into this web interface and set up, quickly onboard themselves and publish and subscribe data. We spoke about monitoring, how you do not have to spend hours and hours digging through session logs. It's a searchable interface. There are available dashboards and reports. Straight away tells you what are the successes and failures. You can reprocess information as well. We spoke about custom flows, building custom mappings in scenarios where you have to do complex mappings. If you want to do small things like phone number formats across multiple subscribers with the same logic, you can expose out parameters. If you have existing Power Center mappings, do want to rewrite the logic, with a little bit of repurposing, you can pull those in. And then finally, because of the fact that we are using the Power Center platform, you can pretty much have a wide breadth of connectivity. You can use mainframes, cloud applications, Hadoop, real-time applications and we didn't cover real-time in the demo, but you can have message queues, web services. All of those can publish to or subscribe to from the Data Integration Hub. So it's a true enterprise level solution. With that, we're going to conclude this demonstration. Thank you.